I request Mr. R.F. Nariman, the Solicitor General of India, to give his address on this occasion. Mr. Nariman.
Honorable Chief Justice, Judges of the Supreme Court, my dear friend Sarma, Mr. Parekh, equally dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. This day somehow evokes different things to different people. Some of you may in fact want to extol the virtues of an independent India. Some may, on the other hand, want to state that a lot has been buried in corruption, which really happens to be the burning issue of the day. I wish to digress a little and dedicate today to the martyrs of our first wars of independence and to those who unfortunately were massacred post-independence in 1947. It all began on a hot day on the 23rd of June 1757. Lord Clive, with a small band of 3,000 men, managed to overwhelm Siraj ud Dawla, the then ruler of Bengal, and established the East India Company's rule in India. Slowly but surely, their tentacles spread far and wide. And by the 1800s, they were firmly established in the three presidencies. The first battle for independence, if I may call it that, was really what the British described as the mutiny at Vellore in 1806. Don't forget, the great Tipu Sultan had taken his life 7 years before that. And it is his son, it was in fact only fitting that his son should lead our first battle for independence. It was firmly put down within a day. But that sent the necessary signal to the British authorities, who then kept bemoaning the fact that the European troops, the English troops, happened to be in a ratio of 1 to 10. That ratio must somehow increase. The ratio in fact increased so that by the time of Lord Dalhousie in 1844, it became 1 to 4. But then that soon got depleted again because of the Crimean War, which, as you know, took place in 1853. And several regiments, English regiments from here were sent to the Crimea and never came back. So when the stage was set for our first war of independence in 1857, and mind you, there was a prophecy, which prophecy a lot of sepoys took to heart, that the British will, on the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Plassey, be expelled from here. They took this to heart, and the first shot was fired, as you know, by Mangal Pandey at Barakpur. After this, the flame caught on in Meerut, and when Meerut actually went the other way, from the British point of view, the British were saved by something extraordinary, which very few really seem to know, the electric telegraph. What happened was, apparently signals were sent by the telegraph all over, including to Lahore. And the Governor General at the time was away on holiday, don't forget, it was the hot season. And he was in Murray, in the hills. So the telegraph went all over North India, particularly Lahore, where there were a large number of British troops stationed. And the British leader there, a Colonel Montgomery, used his presence of mind, asked all the regiments to file in and lay down their arms, which they promptly did. That one act more than any other saved the British from a massacre and saved the British from reinforcements, because these very troops were on the very next day to march to Firozpur. And had they marched, maybe the course of history would have been different. Now, you all know about the great Rani of Jhansi. You all know about the great martyrs of that war. It took almost 2 years for the British to quell. But unfortunately, the prophecy did not come true. And it took us almost another 100 years to get our independence. Meanwhile, of course, there were changes, but the changes were extremely slow. The British ruled over us with an iron fist until the Minto-Morley reforms of 1909, which were really reforms in name, not in substance. You know then that the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms in 1919 led to diarchy. And diarchy, of course, was what the British described as the Governor-General ruling in council as opposed to the Governor-General ruling with elected representatives. Of course, 90% of the subjects were retained by the Governor-General in council. So that again was a reform in name only. The Simon Commission then came in 1927. And consequent to the Simon report, finally the British decided to cede a little of their sovereignty to us, so that under the 1935 Government of India Act, elections were actually held in the provinces. Of course, the Governor-General in Council still retained his veto over any legislation and could still decide as to where the residuary subjects would go, residuary subjects of legislation. So we travelled down this long and hard road. The great Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, whose memory we revere, again did wonders for us with the INA, particularly in Burma, and he relieved many people. My father is from Burma, so we know the great work that he did. And ultimately it came to Attlee's government to give us independence, as it were. Now, independence was really chalked out not for 1947 but for 1948, as you know. And it somehow got preponed. The preponing, of course, caused deaths of many million people, whose remembrance I wish to extol today. And in great remembrance of our great wars of Vellore, of 1857, and of all the people who were martyred in 1947, I ask you to remember all of them. Another part of my speech has to do with a very great Chief Justice, the fourth Chief Justice of India, Chief Justice Bijan Kumar. Today happens to be his birthday. And today happens to be his 110th birthday. Justice William Douglas, the judge who had the largest tenure of all the US Supreme Court, 36 years, delivered a Tagore law lecture which I commend to all of you. It's a huge book, replete with authorities from all over. It is entitled From Marshall to Mukherjee. Chief Justice John Marshall, as you know, was the greatest Chief Justice who reigned, if I may put it that way, for 34 years in the United States. And just like Chief Justice Mukherjee, even though his judgments are very, very old, they are on the lips of every lawyer. Marbury and Madison, McCullough and Maryland, Fletcher and Payne. Similarly, with our great Chief Justice, who unfortunately died when in office and was only here for 6 years. Remarkable what he did in those 6 years. He gave us Amirun-Nisa Begum. These are all judgments on the lips of all of you. A judgment which deals with Article 40 and a single individual. He gave us K.C. Gajapati Narayan Deo, laying down the doctrine of colorable legislation, stating that legislation can never said to be mala fide. It can only be said to be out of bounds, out of its legislative. The great Shirur Math case, speaking for 7 judges, where he laid down what our religious freedoms meant, the distinction between tax and fee. Basappa and Nagappa, where he speaks of Article 226, the writ of certiorari in particular. Ram Javaya Kapoor, the executive power, etc., etc. One can go on and on. Satyabrat Ghosh, the great contract judgment, frustration. This great Chief Justice, in fact, the Napoleon of our justice system, who also happened to be born on 15,000. Sri Aurobindo, another great son of India, also born on this day, are all people's memories that I know. And before I sit down, I will give you the lines of the poet. Where we meet and part and meet again, where dead men meet on the lips of living men. Thank you very much.